dimension and time have, indeed, become much more peaceful than those on your world in your time, but they are still barbaric and quite aggressive, so they would force us to land, which would be very unpleasant for us. Billy says, aha, so they actually are still like the Earth human beings. But then, do they still rush around with their primitive rockets? Semyaza says, what are you thinking? They do live here approximately 500 years in the future. Look over there, that is one of their beam ships. Billy says, beam ships? Girl, then these elves already master space travel. Semyaza says, sure, they also have about 500 years more development behind themselves than the Earth human beings of your time, which I already said. Billy says, of course, yes, but I'm going crazy, look there. Semyaza says, I don't understand you. Billy says, but still, look, the beam ships that they have. I know those from somewhere. I've seen those before. Wait, yes they look remarkably similar to the fantasy products of spaceships, which I recently saw on television. It was the broadcast of a futuristic story by the name of Orion. The ship over there looks deceptively like that thing on TV. Now I do think that I'm dreaming. Semyaza says that is, however, not the case. Consider what I already explained to you once before. Namely that certain Earth human beings receive data and information from external telepathic impulses and unconsciously, so also authors and such people. Thus, they describe things and possibilities of the future and also make drawings and models. Through this, they slowly prepare the Earth human beings and, in particular, the scientists for the coming events, cognitions, and forms and give them a drive for development. Hence, if you now see the beam ship out there, which corresponds to the form known to you, then for this, you can also find the reason for it in my explanation. Billy says, I understand, I didn't think of that. Semyaza says it's really only because of that, but now, let's fly to this world. A few minutes later, we are already on the planet, only in another dimension and about 500 years in the future. Semyaza shows me a lot of very interesting things, which I write down again as keywords, in order to be later able to identify the photos taken. Even the conversation itself is limited to keywords. When we fly out again into space, I notice by my watch that we were in this world for 7 hours. Far out in space, we come to Patar's giant ship, go in, and then Patar leads his ship back into my time and into my dimension. There, I remember something and, thus, direct a wish to Patar. Billy says, Patar, would it be possible that you could bring me to Venus, since I want to take some photos there? Also, I would like to take somewhat better shots of our moon once, and also of Saturn and of Jupiter. With Jupiter, I am especially interested in the red spot, of which I would like to make a close-up. Patar says I can correspond to your wish. If you want to take pictures on Venus, however, then you need a light source with your camera. I have various specialized, small beam ships with strong light sources. I will let 2 of these aircraft fly with you, so you can take pictures through their light. I can also correspond to the wish regarding the moon as well as Saturn and Jupiter. Concerning the close-ups of Jupiter, however, you should try hard to guard these pictures very carefully because Earth scientists could possibly gain insights from these, which wouldn't be good for them yet. Also regarding the pictures of me, I must ask you not to spread these and to show these exclusively in your group. You shouldn't make any photos of these and should let the matter rest exclusively with slides, which should remain in your own possession. Originally, this wasn't planned in such a way, but there is now the possibility that, on occasion, I will have move on the Earth, protected by a vibration device, thus, someone could recognize me, which may not be allowed, however. It was already a major exception that you were allowed to take photos of Askit and Nera, and by the way, in the meantime, we've found female Earth human beings in America who look deceptively similar to them and who, interestingly enough, also work together in a community of interests. Billy says, boy, that's a shame. But the women, the doubles of Ask It and Nera, where are they? Patar says, in the country of America. I did, however, say that already. Billy says, can you give me their addresses and mention further details about them? Patar says, I wouldn't like to do that for certain reasons. Billy says, you are always so mysterious. Patar says, in certain matters, I have to be. Patar cannot be softened, and he very quickly brings his ship to Venus, where I can, in fact, take a few pictures on the planet on its night side using the light from 2 of his special ships. Back at the moon, I can also take several pictures, and I also fly around with Semyaza in her ship. Also with the film camera, I take various pictures, and also of an Earth satellite. When we then fly back to the moon again, I ask Semyaza about the Russian lunar rover, which roved around on the moon years before. She explains that it is possible for her to set the lunar rover in motion, which I naturally want her to do right away. Thus, she flies to the vehicle and does, in fact, set it in motion through procedures that are inexplicable to me. Of course, I also capture this on film. Then, she goes back up into space, and there, I see a UFO flying over the moon again, which I had already noticed during an earlier flight and which was christened Sewing Machine by Hans Jacob. Of course, I filmed this, too. When we then fly to Jupiter in Patar's ship, I still quickly film the Earth and the Moon from far away. At Jupiter, I transfer to Semyaza's ship again, then, I take 3 pictures in large format of the red spot, while far in the background, Patar's ship hangs in space, which I also capture on film. After that, Patar flies into the further vicinity of Saturn, where I can also take a few more pictures. Then, his time is up, and he has to say goodbye. In Semyaza's beam ship, we fly back to Earth, and she brings me home immediately, and I am astonished at her impertinence. Billy says, have you gone crazy? Semyaza says, I've just checked everything in the area and nothing is moving. Billy says, but we are hovering right over my house. Semyaza says, even so, any observers wouldn't be able to see us, my ship is shielded. Billy says, that calms me, but you still impertinent. Semyaza says, you shouldn't be surprised about that, I've acquired this from your nature. And I think that it's starting off well. Billy says, you really have a sense of humor. Semyaza says, I've also said that about you before, but now, you have to go, for in a few minutes, your wife will awaken. See, I'm landing there, right next to the house, it's a good place. Till we meet again. Billy says, okay, then just go down. Well, okay, that is handy. Till we meet again, Semyaza. I let myself slide through the hatch and suddenly, I don't see the beam ship anymore. I raise my hand upward and sure enough, my hand just disappears, but I sense that it meets with metal. Thus, the ship is there, even though I can't see it anymore. So I leave, and as I'm standing only a few meters away on the street, I feel a slight pull. I quickly go back with an outstretched arm, but I can't feel anything. There, Semyaza's voice penetrates into me. Semyaza says, I'm already very high above you, just look. I look up into the sky. There, a large light, which is now quickly becoming smaller, moves very quickly and vertically into the sky and soon disappears. Billy says, I still saw the light. Semyaza says, sure, but go now, for in 7 minutes, your wife will awaken. Till we meet again, dear friend. Billy says, all the best, Semyaza, and many thanks. The end.